What is a mixed methods research design? Creswell states that a mixed methods research design is a procedure for collecting, analyzing, and mixing both quantitative and qualitative methods in a single study or a series of studies to understand a research problem. The goal of a mixed methods research is to provide a better understanding of the research problem and question than either method by itself. This is seen as an advanced methods procedure, as the researcher must be able to understand both quantitative and qualitative research. When do you conduct a mixed methods study? Creswell states that you would use a mixed method study when you have both quantitative and qualitative data present. This research is a good design to use if you seek to build on the strengths of both quantitative and qualitative data. Creswell also states that when one combines quantitative and qualitative data, we have a powerful mix. Combining quantitative and qualitative data. Combining these two forms of data requires the procedure of triangulation, meaning different kinds of data must be collected and integrated to get to the same phenomenon. It is important that we blend the strengths of one type of method while neutralizing the weaknesses of the others. Developing procedures for mixed method studies. It is important when conducting mixed method studies that researchers choose which form of research holds more weight. Figure 16.1 from Creswell shows two different ways to show. For example, study number 1 shows that qualitative and quantitative research are equally as important, whereas study number 2 shows that quantitative research was done first and is more important, whereas qualitative research is a lower priority but there to just back up the quantitative research.
When identifying mixed methods research, there are 3 questions you can ask yourself. Are there words in the title such as qualitative and quantitative together? Is there evidence in the data collection section? So for example, do the authors talk about different forms of data that they've collected throughout the study? And third of all, is there evidence in the purpose statement or the research questions? Do the statements indicate that the researcher intends to collect multiple types of data throughout the study? There are 6 types of mixed method research designs. All designs include a collection of both qualitative and quantitative data within the same research study. These types are organized into 2 categories, basic and advanced. The 3 types of basic mixed method studies are convergent designs, explanatory designs, or exploratory sequential designs. In the advanced section, there are experimental designs, social justice designs, and multi-stage evaluation designs. The purpose of convergent design, also known as parallel or concurrent design, is to collect both qualitative and quantitative data and compare the results to get a fuller understanding of the research problem. Researchers will gather both qualitative and quantitative data, analyze both sets of data separately, then compare the results and analyze both sets of data. It is then up to the researcher to make an interpretation as to whether the results of the data support or diverge their hypothesis. The strengths of this type of study are that it combines the advantages of both types of data. Quantitative data provides generalizability, while qualitative data offers information on context and setting. The difficulties with this type of study, however, are how to merge the 2 forms of data and how to assess the results if they may be different. The explanatory sequential design, also known as the 2-phase model, is the most popular mixed methods research approach in educational research. In this type of research, you collect quantitative and qualitative information sequentially in 2 phases, with one form of data collection following and informing the other. The quantitative data and results provide a general picture of the research problem, then the qualitative data collection is needed to refine, extend, or explain the general quantitative picture. A researcher would first collect the quantitative data and use this as the information for the majority of the data. Researchers then do a secondary qualitative data collection to refine and explain the results from the quantitative data they first completed. The strengths of this type of research include clearly defining the different types of research separately. The difficulties, however, are that the researcher needs to determine what aspect of quantitative results they're going to follow up with on their qualitative data. Exploratory sequential design. The procedure of an exploratory sequential design study is to first gather qualitative data to explore a phenomenon, and then gather quantitative data to explain the relationship found in the qualitative data. This is the opposite of the explanatory sequential design. Researchers use this design when existing instruments, variables, and measures may not be known or available. A researcher presents the study in two phases. The first phase involves qualitative data such as interviews and observations with a smaller amount of individuals. Then researchers follow up with quantitative data collection with a larger population. The strengths of this type of data are that it allows the researcher to identify measures actually grounded in the data obtained from study participants. The difficulties with this type of research is that the research requires extensive data collection as well as time to complete the process. Experimental design. The purpose of an experimental design is to encase a basic mixed methods design within an experiment. Collecting data before an experiment can help tailor an experiment to a group of participants. Collecting data after an experiment can help explain and follow up on quantitative results found during an initial data collection of an experiment. Qualitative data can be added to an experiment before, during, or after the experiment. In experimental design, two research sets are collected within a single study and address different research questions. This data can be collected concurrently, meaning at the same time, or sequentially, meaning one after the other. The strengths of this type of design combines the strengths of both types of research. Quantitative data can be effective at recording outcomes of the experiment, while qualitative data is more effective at identifying how individuals are experiencing the process of the experiment. The difficulties with this type of design are that the two databases are different, and comparing them can be difficult because they answer different research questions. Social justice design, also known as transformative or participatory design. The purpose of social justice design is to transform society and address the injustices that exist for certain populations. Typical frameworks that are used during a social justice design study are from feminist, racial, ethnic, disability, and LGBTQ perspectives. A social justice design follows an explanatory design model, quantitative data followed by qualitative data collection. At the end of a study, researchers include an additional section of their study known as a call for action to help bring about change in our current practices in society. The strengths of this type of research are that they are value-based and ideological. However, the difficulties are that we are still learning and working on how to best integrate the different frameworks into a mixed methods design seamlessly. Multi-stage evaluation design. A multi-stage evaluation design is used when researchers want to evaluate the impact of a program or project. This design is popular in large-scale health research and program evaluation research. This is a complex design that combines the benefits of the three basic mixed methods designs. Any combination of the three basic mixed methods designs can be used. All multi-stage designs need assessment, development of a theory, design of an instrument, and a test of a program. A program will often then be revised in light of the formative and summative evaluation from the study. The strengths of this type of research are that it is a multiple stage research, and findings can help build studies and inform each step of the process. The difficulties with this type of research is that forming a research team that can work on diverse methods comfortably at the same time can be challenging. Keeping the different types of studies in sync with the overall project objective can also be difficult as they are so diverse.
There are 6 key characteristics of mixed methods research. The first key characteristic is to provide a rationale for the design. Readers must clearly know why each form of data was chosen. Furthermore, it should be explained why either quantitative or qualitative data may hold more weight than the other. Whatever the rationale is, it should be included early in the study, such as the introduction. The second key characteristic is to collect both quantitative and qualitative data. In a mixed method study, it is important that both quantitative and qualitative data is collected. Table 16.1 from Creswell shows how data could be collected and included within studies. Next, you must consider your priority. When thinking about your data collection, it is important to consider which data you will emphasize more in the purpose statement, which data collection process will get the most attention, and which will be examined in most depth. 3 options available are that quantitative and qualitative data are of equal weight, quantitative data is of greater weight than qualitative, or qualitative data is of greater weight than quantitative. Next, you must consider the sequence. There are multiple ways to collect data. The first way would be to collect quantitative and qualitative data at the same time. Another alternative would be to collect quantitative data first, then collect qualitative data. Thirdly, you could collect qualitative data, then quantitative. Lastly, a more advanced option would be to collect quantitative and qualitative data at the same time, as well as in sequence. The next key characteristic is to match the data analysis to a design. Creswell states that this is one of the most difficult challenges for the mixed methods researcher and is more than simply just being able to link or intersect the data to one another. The last key characteristic is to diagram the procedures. Mixed methods researchers often provide a visualization or diagram of their design. It consists of labeling the quantitative and qualitative data, indicating the sequence, and emphasizing the priority. This research visual helps readers identify the sequence of data collection. Creswell states that of all the design analysis options, convergent design analysis is the most difficult and controversial type of analysis. One way to compare the quantitative and qualitative data is through a side-by-side analysis, where themes emerging from the data look at how they support or refute statistical analysis. Creswell explains that another approach is to combine the qualitative and quantitative data to arrive at new variables or new themes for further testing or exploration. Another option would be to quantify qualitative data and compare that data directly with statistical results. A final approach would be to directly compare the quantitative results and the qualitative findings in a table, such as a joint display. Creswell explains that the analysis of an explanatory design is easier to see and conduct than in a convergent design. Researchers might collect quantitative data and look for extreme cases to follow up in a qualitative phase. Another option would be for researchers to seek to understand and explain the results in more depth in a qualitative phase of the study. Another option, used less frequently, would be typology development, through quantitative data collection and the use of this typology as a framework for identifying themes in a qualitative database. Exploratory design analysis happens when a substantial qualitative data collection becomes a means for developing or locating quantitative instruments, forming categorical information for later quantitative data collection, or developing generalizations from a few initial qualitative cases. Creswell states that perhaps the most popular use is to generate an instrument well grounded in the qualitative data from participants in a study. Researchers could also combine categories of information from an exploratory qualitative data collection with continuous data in a statistical analysis. Embedded design analysis is used when the analyses of the quantitative and qualitative data are kept separate because the two data sets often reflect different questions. Therefore, in experimental study, the outcome analysis is conducted for the quantitative data and the process qualitative data is analyzed for themes. When a correlational study is used, the analysis also proceeds independently of each other. Creswell explains that in both the experimental and correlational examples, results of the two databases can be interpreted together. How one reinforces the other or complements the other.
We will now discuss the steps used by researchers when conducting mixed methods research. Number 1, determine if a mixed method study is feasible. You need skills in gathering both qualitative and quantitative data, time to collect extensive information, and a working knowledge of the different types of designs. 2, identify a rationale for mixed methods. Consider why you are collecting both qualitative and quantitative data. Be explicit in your rationale and include it early in your research plan or report. The intent for the 6 basic and advanced designs should be a good starting point. 3, identify a data collection strategy. You need to know the specific forms of quantitative data and qualitative data that you will collect, the priority you will give to qualitative and quantitative data, and the sequence of your data collection if you do not plan to collect the data concurrently. 4. Develop quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods questions. Develop research questions when you have a specific design in mind, either before or during the study. Typically, researchers identify both exploratory, which are qualitative, and analytic variable-oriented questions, which are quantitative. Remember that qualitative questions are open-ended and non-directional in nature, whereas quantitative questions specify the relationship among independent and dependent variables. Mixed methods questions are essentially questions to be answered by the type of study design being used. 5. Collect quantitative and qualitative data. The sequence in which you collect data depends on the type of design. In all designs, this phase of the research will be lengthy and require good organization. 6. Analyze data separately or concurrently. The data analysis relates to the specific type of mixed methods design you are using. And finally, 7. Write the report as a 1 or 2 phase study or a multiple stage study. The final step is to write a scholarly report either in 2 phases or in a way that integrates the quantitative and qualitative phases of the study in each section. Now we will look at how you might evaluate the quality of a mixed method study. Since this design uses both qualitative and quantitative research, mixed methods research must use consistent criteria that needs to be considered by people reading, evaluating, and conducting a study. Here is a summary of quality criteria from Creswell, and we will explain what demonstrates indicators of high or low quality studies. First, the words mixed methods are used in the study. High quality work would use the words mixed methods, whereas low quality would refer to the study as qualitative and quantitative. It contains both qualitative and quantitative data. In a high-quality study, the researcher will give details of the data collection and analysis of both qualitative and quantitative data. In a low-quality study, the researcher does not detail the data collection procedures. The report displays an integration of the quantitative and qualitative data. In a high-quality study, they will explain how the data is integrated. In a low-quality study, they do not mention the specific form of integration used. The specific type of mixed methods design is identified. In a high-quality study, they identify the study as basic or advanced, provide a definition, and present a visual diagram of the design. In a low-quality study, no explanation of procedures or presentation of a visual design. And finally, the final criteria, a researcher cites mixed methods literature to document the use of mixed methods. In a high-quality study, they'll cite empirical studies and important literature that uses mixed methods. In a low-quality study, there'll be no mention of the literature. Finally, we will address the potential ethical issues in mixed methods research. Since mixed methods combines both qualitative and quantitative research, ethical considerations include issues that are common in both forms of research. Quantitative issues include obtaining permissions, protecting privacy of respondents, not disrupting sites, and communicating the purposes of the study. Qualitative issues include conveying the purpose of the study, avoiding deceptive practices, respecting vulnerable populations, being aware of potential power issues in data collection, respecting Indigenous culture, not disclosing sensitive information, and masking the identities of participants. There are also ethical and methodological issues that may arise unique to each type of design. In convergent design, there are different sample sizes, so researchers must not minimize the importance of a sample because of its size. In explanatory sequential design, make sure the researchers use names with permission after a large quantitative database for the initial phase of the research. In experimental design, researchers should not use initial interview data to place participants in a control group. In social justice design, you do not want to further marginalize the participants during the study. And finally, in multi-stage design, ethical issues arise when the needs of participants are overlooked in favor of existing models in the literature, or researchers do not seek ongoing permissions throughout the project. Here are some examples of existing mixed methods research studies.
When using Creswell's criteria for the article Mixed Methods Research and Education, it appears that all of the elements are there for this research. Scholes, MacArthur, and Huxham used an explanatory design method. The words mixed methods are clearly used in their title, making it obvious to the reader the purpose of their study. Furthermore, it is clearly discussed the purpose behind using the explanatory method design. Scholes, MacArthur, and Huxham explain that data was collected first quantitatively and that the goal of the qualitative data was to support their findings. Previous literature is used by Scholes, MacArthur, and Huxham to support their decision for using the explanatory design method. However, this mixed method study does not provide any visual for the reader, making it more difficult for the reader to potentially understand their purpose. The article, Traditions and Alcohol Use, a Mixed Method Analysis, clearly shows what a mixed method research design would look like. When using Creswell's criteria to evaluate a mixed methods research, all parts of the study seem to be there. It is clearly stated in the abstract the purpose behind the quantitative and qualitative themes. Castro and Co. provide previous literature that explains the convergent data collection works best for this study. Furthermore, a clear visual is shown in the study to help the reader better understand the data collection process. In the conclusion, Castro and Co. explain why the qualitative data helped to solidify the quantitative results.
Mixed methods research designs are becoming a popular choice in education as researchers gain a better understanding of the advantages of collecting both qualitative and quantitative data.
Throughout this presentation, we hope we have explained how and when to use mixed methods research, the different types, and how to evaluate a mixed method study.
As Creswell stated, it is through the integration of both qualitative and quantitative methods that make mixed methods an exciting approach to educational research.